What's up, podcast land? It's your girl Nisha. Welcome back to another episode of Laughing and Crying. This is a podcast that values our relationships, including the ones we have with ourselves, you guys. If you're new, welcome. I guarantee you're going to have some fun. And on today's show, we're going to start out with a little bit of an update from me and then have a conversation on loving ourselves correctly. So let's get into it. You feel me? So as far as the update goes, I am loving the feedback I'm getting on the podcast, man. I am out here networking, getting more people who are willing to be vulnerable and just meeting people. And it's been so nice to, just hear all these stories. The last episode just threw me. And that's part of where I'm coming from with this episode I have today. The conversation I have today was just like a reflection on the episode from last week, Coping with Codependency. If you haven't listened to that episode, you should go listen to that episode because it's fire. Literally, the last 3 or 4 episodes, maybe even 5 episodes have been fire. So, yeah, do that. But like I was saying, with the podcast, this has just been a journey, man. It's been so awesome. And I've gotten feedback from people saying how, they are reflecting on relationships they have in their life and maybe, switching some things around. I've been told that maybe I should have more of a male perspective on the podcast, which I am definitely open to, and am just looking for some males who are willing to be a little bit vulnerable, and still every week, still on Wednesdays, Patreon's still available. Please go out and follow these people who are on the podcast because they're dope guests that I've had on. So definitely give them a follow on IG or on Facebook, wherever you found this. I see you guys listening. That's been amazing. That's been great just to see that you guys are listening and to see that you guys are enjoying the content that I'm putting out. It's really been cool. It's really been cool to see since I went from every other week to every week, how many more people are listening and consuming, the people who are looking at the video clips I'm putting up on YouTube and an IG. It's been great. So that's enough of that stuff, So again, thank you for listening. If you're new, you're now a part of podcast land, fall into the fold for sure. So the topic I have today that I wanted to talk about is about loving yourself correctly. So I have a problem. Sometimes I want to be there for people so bad that I don't realize that I'm hurting myself or that I'm enabling people, right? And the reason why I want to talk about this is because of last week's episode about coping with codependency and about having codependent traits. Jen Orr, who's the guest on that episode, talked about codependent traits, and it got me reflecting on myself so hard. What? So I started thinking about it. And one of the ones was enabling people. And of course, it's not something I do intentionally. But I realized that I've been in a couple situations where I have been doing that. And it's because it's no man left behind, I just really, truly want to help people. That's, the basis of the podcast. That's why I'm doing this, is because I don't want to just selfishly keep all of my journey to myself. I want to share it because I know that there are people who don't have access to someone in their life being as vulnerable or being as open. So I want to be that person. But how many times do we treat ourselves worse than we treat other people in life? Because podcast land. That's what I've been reflecting on. It's just, I have accepted this toxic way of being in the name of helping people. I've accepted this toxic way of being in the name of comfort. Because honest to God, let's be real. Sometimes it's more comfortable in the dysfunction and to indulge in the toxicity than to use the energy to get out of it. Don't leave me by myself. Don't leave me by myself. There have been things where I'm just it's been like this for so long. You know how much energy it's going to use to change it? But I've realized on this journey of being on this podcast with you guys, from hearing you guys speak back to me and give me feedback and listening to these guests, that the relationship we have with ourselves, even though I say it every week, sometimes it don't click. You know what I mean? And so the relationship we have with ourselves is the one that should be the most nurtured. And I want to be healthy. Podcast land, people. And what does that mean? Okay. So I have a couple points. And obviously this is going to be a little bit of a shorter episode because I am by myself. No guests today. But I also, Nish, we straight to the point. We just get on with it, right? But I want to be healthy. And so what does that mean? A couple things. One of them is I want to fight the urge to live and learn in solitude. So part of me wanting to fight that urge is doing this podcast because I'm like, I'm building a community. There's a community that is being built upon this podcast, which is great. But so many times in life, I've used the cop-out of, man, I just want to be myself. I'm tired of relationships. I'm done. And the reason I call it a cop-out, and I know it's a strong word to use, but I kind of think it's justified because sometimes when we choose solitude, it opens us up to not having to be accountable to our actions or how we treat people. Because if we're by ourselves, who's challenging us? Who's really holding us to anything, really? So in some ways it's easier. Some ways it's easier being by yourself because you don't have to be challenged at all. You can stay in La La Land. We can believe that we're perfect. We can believe that we don't do anything wrong. And it's kind of great. Do you hear the toxicity? No, I'm joking. No, but seriously. And then there's this other complex that we get, right? Like this like imposter, I'm a superhero type complex that we get where it's like, oh, if we're by myself, it makes me stronger and mightier if I accomplish something, when it really doesn't. Like you hear the saying that people say all the time, it takes a village. When I talk about like raising kids, it's because it literally takes a village. Not just because, it's a preference to take a village. No, like it literally takes a village, and you're depriving yourself if you do not operate in a community setting. We're built for relationships. When you try to do everything yourself and think you're a superhero, which is false, if no one else is going to tell you, it's false. It leads to burnout. It leads to a false sense of protection because you're ultimately in control of your follow through. So you feel protected, but in reality, there's nothing challenging you. So what are you actually being protected from? Yeah, it's whack. I'm here to tell you it's whack. Community is hard, but you need it. And it's a cop-out to not have it. And for me especially, and at least, like a lot of times when I am deciding to be in solitude, it also means that I'm deciding to act like God doesn't exist. I'm a Christian and I'm a believer, but sometimes I'm like, okay, God, I know you say pray and stuff, but I'm not going to. But prayer changes things, people. And I know there are people who listen to my podcast probably who don't believe in Jesus, and that's fine. But it does. It changes things. And honestly, for me, God is the beginning and the end of community. And I've just decided I'm going to stop acting like it's not a super important part of being healthy for me. Next point. I want to treat myself like the great friend that I want to be. So, I'm doing this podcast, and the whole point of the podcast is to be better at relationships, to treat ourselves well, to treat other people well. But sometimes I come on this podcast and I'll be encouraging all of you guys and the guests and doing all the things and realizing that I still have bottom feeder energy. Like I get the scraps. Understanding my identity, like I understand my friends' identities, is understanding that I'm not a bottom feeder. And that I deserve the best. And sometimes here's when it really gets hard, is when you treating yourself well and you feeling like you're treating someone else well, feeling like it's like competing with each other, right? Like, well, if I step away from this person, they're going to be sad and it may make them feel really bad. But maybe stepping away from that person is what's healthy for you. But you feel like it's competing with what you think is like good for someone else. And so we choose the someone else over ourselves. And it's not to say, right, that we're being selfish. Like, that's not the point. I think the point of what I'm saying is, how are you trying to be a good friend and a great friend to someone else when you can't be it to yourself? Why is it that you come last? I'm going to let that sit. Another example. Hey, you guys, you need to make sure that you're prioritizing self-care, and you just need to like tell this person and be honest and such and such and such. But when it comes to your turn, you do the things that make you feel comfortable and cozy and safe. And you're not treating yourself like the great friend that you want to be. And that's what I'm recognizing in myself, is that if I'm going to be a good friend to other people, I got to be a good friend to myself. Okay, so here's another thing that's huge. I have to start acknowledging what I say to me. Someone once told me that my voice is the voice that I hear the most. Okay? Not anybody else's. When you brushing your teeth and talking to yourself in the mirror, when you're talking to yourself in your head, when you're in the car by yourself, you are the voice that you hear the most. So if you're telling yourself, I can't do it, at multiple points in the day, you're probably not going to do it. Even if your spouse or your friends are telling you, of course, girl, you got this, whatever, you're probably not going to do it. And so I've just been realizing that I am in control of what I say to me. And if I change what I say to me, I'm going to change how I feel. I'm going to change what I do, because your thoughts have to change in order for your actions to change. And if your thoughts are telling you that you're going to fail, you're probably going to fail. And so, healthy. I was at the gym with one of my friends the other day. Hilarious. And I was looking in the mirror and I was disappointed, because I was like, Nisha, you have been in a place where you have looked in the mirror when you're working out, and you've been like, girl, look at you. You're amazing. Look at you. And in that particular moment, I was not feeling that. I was feeling the complete opposite of that. I was feeling like, girl, what did you do? How did you allow yourself to roll down this hill and be out of shape the way that you are? And I was looking in my mirror, and I was saying some of those things out loud, because your girl, she talks to herself out loud. And I'm not crazy. It's just, some people do it. And my friend turned to me and she said, why are you saying that? And I said, girl, because it's true. Am I not out of shape? Have I not looked better before? Have I not done this? Have I not done that? And she said, I didn't ask you if it was true. I asked you why you're saying it. What's going to motivate you? The quote, truth? Because we both know the truth. We both know that the reason why you're in the gym is to get to a better place. What's going to motivate you? Telling yourself, look how crappy you've been to yourself and look at where you are now? Or, dang, Nisha, look at you in the gym. Look at you turning things around. Look at you making different decisions. What's going to motivate you? Because you need to say the thing that's going to motivate you. Because what you talk to yourself the most. I just recognize that part of being healthy is speaking to yourself in the way that you would speak to someone that you love, because that's about loving yourself. I think that just clicked in my mind, bro, on this podcast, live. If I talk to myself the way that I would talk to other people I love. That makes sense. Man. Anyway, okay. Last point. I felt like this is the point that means the most to me. And one of the things that I know is going to keep away toxic patterns and bring more healthy patterns into my life, which is keeping my word to myself. Now, I'm a person where I feel like if you don't have your word, you'll have anything. I recognized in a therapy session, maybe a year or so ago, sitting with my therapist, and I was like, I don't trust my decisions. And my therapist was like, okay, glad you recognize that. All right, what are we going to do about it? And I was like, I don't know. I trust other people's decisions more than I trust my own. Because I make decisions and then I realize that they weren't the best decisions. So therefore, it leads me to believing I don't make the best decisions. So why am I continuing to make decisions? And he goes, you are confusing your brain. And so at the time when I was sitting and talking to my therapist, it was still closer to the beginning of, or the first year of my marriage, where a little bit of backstory about me. I grew up in a home where divorce was present. Of course, part of that for me was, once I got into marriage, that wasn't, as much as I didn't want to be an option, in my mind it was an option because I already saw it practiced. I already saw it. I was literally getting up every day deciding whether or not I wanted to be married. So something bad happened. I'm like, I don't want to be married. I don't know if I want to do this. I might not do this anymore. Something good happened. Oh, I kind of want to do this. It's kind of good. Something bad happened. And the cycle continues. And he said, when you are making a decision, you have to decide what you want. What do you want? And he said, do you want to be married? Or do you not want to be married? And I said, well, I want to be married. Of course I want to be married. I just don't know if I can be married some days because he's stupid sometimes, whatever. And he goes, well, if you want to be married, every decision you make has to be pushing you towards that goal of being married. But when you flip-flop, you're teaching yourself to not trust yourself. And I was so confused. What I recognized is one of the reasons I wasn't trusting my decisions is because I wasn't trusting that I knew what I wanted. So even if I had decided to stay married and things did not work out, I can trust that I went for what I wanted. I can trust that every decision I made was to get me to the goal that I wanted. And ultimately, you're teaching yourself, hey, if I want it, I'm going to get it. If I want it, I'm going to do everything I can to be there. And your brain's going to back you up. But if you're like, I want it, nah, I don't know if I want it. I want it, no, I don't know if I want it. I want it, no, I don't know if I... If you're doing that to yourself, your brain's going to freak out. I want to keep my word to myself. If I'm saying I want to be healthy, I want every single one of my decisions to push me towards being healthy. I can't be like, I want to be healthy, and then it's like, no, I want to be toxic. No, I want to be healthy. No, I want to be toxic. No, I want to be healthy. Like, I have to step into the path of what healthy looks like. And when I'm not on that path, or when I'm not doing what healthy looks like, I need to make sure I realign myself to what I want. And literally, that's how we keep promises to other people, right? It's how we keep our word. If I tell someone, hey, I'm going to do this for you, I don't then say, like, oh, I'm not going to do this for you. No, I'm going to do this for you. No, I'm not going to. That's why we don't trust people who do that, right? Like, we don't trust people who are like back and forth, who don't know what they want, who don't know what they want to commit to, right? Like, we have to commit. That's the word I was missing. You have to commit to your decision of what you want. Woo! I didn't know if I was ready to hear that. Were you ready to hear that? You have to commit to deciding what you want. That's how you keep your word to yourself. So if you are finding yourself in a position of not trusting your decisions, if you're finding yourself in a position of being resentful of people in your life because they seem like they're being taken care of more than you, or if you find yourself wondering why you don't really believe you're going to accomplish your goals, consider that maybe you're not keeping your word. If you told yourself you're going to do more self-care, keep your word. Or don't make the promise. So that's my intention. So yeah, that's what I've been learning, guys. I mean, it's a journey for sure. And I'm excited to see where it brings me. It's so interesting that I am at my ripe old age before I've even decided that I can even do this. I hope you guys got a lot out of this episode. Relationships are tricky. And I'm saying that about even the one that we have with ourselves. Okay? I hope you had something to take away from the conversation that we had today. And I hope you let me know how you feel. Because I feel great. I feel motivated though, for real, to do more for myself. And make no mistake, I would love to hear what you love most about this podcast episode. And if there's a topic that you're like, Niche, you gotta talk about this next, I want to hear your thoughts on this, I'm here for that. Hit me up on Instagram where I'm most active at Unleash the Niche. That's Unleash THA Niche. You can also find me on any other platform at Unleash the Niche as well. If you think more people should listen to the show, you can help me get the podcast noticed by sending an episode to a friend, by writing a review on Apple Podcasts, or by continuing to share on social media. And if you yourself want to go deeper into the topics, laugh harder, join me over on Patreon. On Patreon, you get the podcast early, you get the video version of the podcast, and personal vlogs, and much more. So you don't want to miss that opportunity. Well, it's a shorter episode, but that's it. I loved hanging out with you guys today, and maybe we can impact the world or something. I don't know. I'll leave it at that. Bye.